Welcome to the Stones of Strength podcast, an audio plinth upon which we will endeavor to centralize and showcase stories and information related to lifting historical and non-historical stones and the ongoing development and re-emergence of stone lifting culture. Welcome to episode 28 of the Stones of Strength podcast, where we were joined by Pawel Wencel, who is someone that many of you may know by his online moniker of Sand and Stone, where he posts fantastic videos of his sandbag lifts, his stone lifts, and he's someone who's he's a pleasure to watch because he's just such a smooth, controlled, and strong lifter. He also posts a lot of videos about the fantastic modern stones of strength that he's been setting up all around the United States and some in Canada. But you also might know him by, and if you don't, you should, by the page he curates known as the Strength Stones Collective, whereby he amalgamates lifting videos from all over the world across the entire stone lifting community and centralizes and showcases different members of the community, different lifts, different stones. And it's a great page that highlights lifters from across the world and is a great resource for new lifters coming to the community if they want to get there and really drink through a fire hose by way of seeing tons of lifts from different lifters from different regions, countries, cultures, all in one spot. That is the place to go. So
yeah, it's a great page, and he's just so supportive of, again, people from all over the world. Yeah. And it's awesome. He does a great job, and we're happy that he does it.
Oh yeah. It's phenomenal. And speaking of community and people who are putting in work within the community to help showcase stone lifting, and especially do it in a really positive and respectful light, just a shout out to Morgan, who was formerly known as Average Graft, is now known as the strong geologist and confirmed on both accounts, very much strong and very much a geologist.
Yes, he is.
He has been putting out some fantastic posts recently where he's going around Scotland visiting a lot of the remarkable historical lifting stones there and providing information on the purpose of the lifting stone, the geology of the lifting stone, some of the things you may need to be aware of when lifting the stone. As an example is the recent visit to Strathmore Durness, where he's pointing out some of the inherent planes of weakness within the stone just by nature of it being a sedimentary rock. And he talks about, especially in that one, how to lift it, and not only how to lift it, but how to set it down. And further than just providing information on it, he demonstrates how to lift it.
It's a great lift.
And it's a fantastic lift. So it's one of those things where we talk about, information is power. And in this instance, you're being given so much information about the stone. So again, about the history of the stone as it pertains to having been a feat of strength for the local community, the geologic history of the stone, how to lift it, and then he demonstrates the lift. So there is no way someone could watch that video and not understand how that stone is to be treated. It's just, there's no room for misinterpretation because it is all there, very well curated, very well explained, and his posts are awesome. We look forward to more of them and to be able to share them whenever we can. So
there's obviously been a lot of discussion, and we've been a part of it too, with the quote unquote right way to lift a stone. Do you lift it to its historical height? Do you lift it to the height you can, the safest, basically, right? And there's people on both sides of the argument, and I actually understand to a certain extent both sides of the argument a lot. We choose to go one way, a lot of people choose to the other, but when you have an expert in actual rock saying this is a fragile piece of history, just lift it to this height and let's keep it there, it becomes more and more difficult to try and use your ego as leverage to lift it as high as you want, because you now know that you're putting it at risk, right? So
for sure.
Yeah, he does a great job.
And when it's so plainly demonstrated about how not to set the stone down, when you go to lift it, you have to think, if I'm going to shoulder the stone, can I set it down and make sure I'm setting it down not in the manner that he has demonstrated would be detrimental to the stone. So,
and it's not being used in any way as any kind of retrospective shaming if somebody set it down differently. It's just now that we've had an expert look at it.
Yeah.
And goes, just don't do it this way. Yeah. And that's how we all go, all right, we've learned, and we won't do that in the future. Right?
Don't do it this way, do it this way, and I will show you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's just great. It's great. And as we've said, the more information we can get out there about how to lift and interact with these stones and the environment within which they sit, the better it is for experienced lifters, because it causes some internal reflection, but also for new lifters coming to the community. Yeah. And hopefully everyone, when you find these posts that provide this kind of meaningful information, please share them. The more we can get this widespread, the better it will be for all of us, and especially for these historical stones and the people who want to lift them in the future. So another shout out. We don't have a community corner for this episode because by and large, talking to Pawel and the work he's done is really a community corner. A lot of the work that he puts in is really to try to highlight the great folks within the stone lifting community. Another group of great folks in the stone lifting community is the New England Stone Lifting Crew, and they just did the first international North American stone tour, essentially as far as we know ever, right?
Yep.
So they
Yep.
hit up a lot of their local stones and made their way up into Quebec and Ontario, Canada. The lifts look awesome. It looks like the camaraderie and the actual, like,
It's a lot of that.
the celebration, like it looked like everything that you hope to get out of a stone tour, especially if you're traveling overseas to have these rewarding experiences. They are doing it here at home in North America, and it's just fantastic to see. So
And it just fully supports what we've been saying for a long time, is if you don't have the opportunity to travel, and even if you do, still look into setting up something in your local area, because you just don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know if people are going to come travel to lift your stones or have an actual stone lifting tour with just such a great group of people. I got so much respect for them individually as people. They're such great folk, and what they're doing for their community and traveling to lift is just awesome.
And they're strong of character, but also strong of body, because they were throwing up some fantastic lifts as well, just incredibly strong.
So strong.
Yeah. Some of other awesome community members that are getting out on a stone tour. So just a shout out to Alex Burleson and the other folks from the Utah Stones of Strength group that are making their way out of the mountains of Utah all the way overseas to the mountains of Iceland. And we are just very much looking forward to seeing them all have very successful trip, but also a very enjoyable and rewarding trip. We know a lot of them have been putting in a ton of work in preparation for this, and we just hope they go over and have all the success that they can, and whatever that means to them as individuals.
Absolutely.
Right? So, No Fame Games just wrapped up the home games just about a month ago. So we were fortunate enough to go there last year and meet a ton of lifters here from North America, but also David Keown made his way from overseas. Martin Jancic made his way from overseas. They were back over again. They're helping run the Try It clinic along with local lifters like Mark Jones was there, John Shears, who was the Stone Lord of Stone Lore, Wolfgar on the Stones. Our buddy Keith Surratt from Nova Scotia made his way down, and it was really cool because they not only had a chance to lift the Clock Bond, which is David Keown's first training stone that was brought overseas last year, but Martin Jancic's first training stone, Clock Fear Alba, was also brought over from Scotland and was there to lift and be lifted in the futures part of the games. And it was just great to see Martin and his contribution to the stone lifting community globally be recognized by having one of his training stones available for people from North America to get their hands on. So
Absolutely. It looked like a great event and some really, really respectful and quality lifts of the stones as well. So
awesome.
And speaking of one of the guys that was there, David Keown, got his book here. I don't read so good, but I'm reading this book good. It is awesome. It's lovely because we've spent so much time talking to him. We've had the pleasure of having him on the podcast. We've met him in person. We have a lot of back and forth. And I can hear his voice reading this book to me as I'm going through, which is just great. That's also
a dream, having David Keown sort of
read anything to me.
You to sleep every night as you lay in bed.
Perfect. It is good. And there's also the audiobook is available as well on Audible. It might be available on other websites and apps as well, but I know it's available on Audible. For us in North America, we can't actually listen to it until early in September, but we've also got that, and just want to give him the kudos he deserves because it is a great book, and it's getting me super stoked for our trip to Ireland next year.
Yeah, and it's been so wonderful to see his feed on Instagram about how well received it's been overseas in Europe. He's been on a bunch of book tours and doing a bunch of seminars and things like that, promoting the book and promoting stone lifting culture in Ireland. But he also is coming to North America. So in September, he'll be in Boston and New York for the release of the book here in North America. And we just wish him all the success, because from the first time we talked to him, he was just getting started on this journey, to now he still comes at it with the same honest passion and reverence for the culture that he had back then. And he has just put so much into finding and reviving Irish stone lifting. It's wonderful to see that his efforts are being rewarded, but also the work he has put in is reaching more and more people.
Absolutely. So, and you can just hear his passion in the words that he writes, and it's phenomenal. I'm really enjoying it. And that's being honest.
And speaking of it being read in his voice, as you were lucky enough to have it done to you in your mind. Just a shout out to David too, because I know when the publishing company approached him about the audiobook, they were going to have a voice actor read it.
Which is absurd. That happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, no, like I would like, these are my words. I would like to read it because he understandably didn't think that someone else would be able to convey it with the passion that he
course not.
has, right? And he's already such a charismatic and like such an incredible person that it would seem like a no-brainer to anyone who knew him that he should be the person to voice it. But he had to convince the publishing company, and he did. And so
Good.
now the audio version is in his voice, and there's no one else in the world who should be telling his story other than
But him, yeah, it's a no-brainer.
So kudos to him for all that he does and he continues to do. And we are very much looking forward to connecting with him next year and lifting in Ireland. Just cannot wait. So, all right, on to our guest for episode 28 of the Stones of Strength podcast, Pawel Wencel. Welcome to episode 28 of the Stones of Strength podcast, where we are very pleased to be joined with the man of sand and stone himself, Pawel Wencel. Pawel, thank you for joining us.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to share the time together on a Monday afternoon, a summer Monday afternoon. Before you guys get into for any further, I'm just gonna go off the rails here and just
Please do, yeah.
express. I don't think you guys get enough credit for the work that you guys have done and that you guys continue to do. Obviously, you guys are the OGs in the podcast space for our niche, our beautiful community, growing community.
He's right. Yeah.
You guys laid the groundwork for others like Bex and then Wolfgar, and like continue to highlight and share these stories. So I don't think you guys get enough credit for the work that you guys do. So thank you very much.
It's nice of you to say, but we do it just like the reason we started the podcast is just so we can talk to people like yourself, and it gives us an excuse and an in almost to have these discussions that in other circumstances might have been kind of strange to be like, hey man, we've talked on Instagram a bit, but do you want to have a conversation for an hour and a half?
Can I call you and speak to you for an hour and a half?
This is kind of the format that makes it all a little bit more socially acceptable. And yeah, I appreciate the kind words. We're happy to do it.
Yeah. And when you talk about building community too, like one of the big reasons why we want to talk to you, obviously you've set up some incredible modern stones of strength and your lifting is phenomenal to watch, but you're someone who's put a lot of time and effort into aggregating videos and sharing lifts and connections across the stone lifting community through your Strength Stones Collective Instagram page, which in the last episode in the intro, it kind of put the call out to people now that we're sort of reaching this inflection point in stone lifting where it's growing so rapidly, there needs to be a bit more of a comprehensive effort put into how we want people to see this as they come into it, whether it's respecting stones, respecting landowners and access requirements, how you do a stone tour, competitions, all these things. And we had said, we would love for everyone to think about ways that they could maybe try in their own way to move the needle. And you've done that. You have been doing that, and you continue to do that in a really big way. So thank you for the work that you've been doing through your Strength Stones Collective page. So
No, for sure. And thank you for mentioning that. It's again, it was a spur of the moment type of thing as I was kind of shifting my focus in terms of like my athletic pursuits and like how do I kind of get myself more involved in the community while kind of traveling abroad, and it was kind of like the low hanging fruit for myself. So in a way, I did it selfishly, and it's kind of grown bigger than I imagined. So I appreciate. And even more recently, I think it's kind of as the community is gaining steam. I think all of our collective pages, pardon the phrasing there, they're growing together. So it's a rising tide lifts all ships. But with that kind of like new devils, right? Like you have to now. I can't just like I have to be now myself. I have to be more mindful of like as what we're curating and what we're sharing, because in a way, it's not. I think Charlie from Tahoe. Like he hit me up like one day, like this is like so cool. It's like an online magazine now, right? Type of thing, which I think it's a pretty apropos. But given how the sport and the community is going, being mindful of those things when I'm curating and reposting and sharing these things, it's not just like, hey, on a whim, click, repost and go, but like what is the essence of what you want me to share with the broader community, right? So yeah, for sure.
It's a stamp of approval, basically. If you share something, if we reshare something on the podcast page, and it's something that you almost, like you said, have to be a little bit careful and choose wisely. Not that you don't want to share everyone's, but as we're trying to build what we feel is maybe a great direction to take the stone lifting community with, respect of historical stones and those hot topics, so to speak, that it is something that we have to be mindful as well. You can't just reshare everything. Not that we don't want to, but I guess we're trying to build it up in a way that we can, in a way that we feel personally is a positive direction. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that the lift or what's being shown aligns with our values, and our
Said way
values,
better.
right? Our values don't represent everyone's values or how we think everyone should interact with stone lifting, but that's the space we feel comfortable in,
Yeah.
and that's what we choose to highlight. So, yeah,
Said way better than that.
sorry. Yeah,
No, that's right.
No, and like for sure, and in a way, it encourages discussion, right? And I think you guys have done a tremendous job of doing that, and just offering a space, you know, in a medium to have those different perspectives shared, good, better, otherwise, right? And then it's also the page and our pages, and I think others that are kind of doing the similar things in the community. It is very much becoming an education piece, right? In terms of how you conduct yourself when you are stone lifting, right? Modern, historic, or otherwise, right?
Yeah. And yeah, like you'd said, Dale, it's the vision that we are, or the perspectives that we think are important in stone lifting. And I've mentioned this before, and it's okay that everybody doesn't agree on all the specifics of it. And that's not what we're discussing, right? Like we repost stuff that we may not agree with on certain aspects of how one thing should be done or to the level another thing should be done. And that's not what we're talking about. It's just, we want to represent stones being treated in the best possible light. And if that's what you're doing, then that's awesome.
Yeah, as we've seen in other forums and walks of life and in politics and all these sort of things, echo chambers are never helpful for anybody. So it is those opposing or different views that help reflection too. Like a number of times, people have come to us with an alternative way of interpreting something or seeing something, and we've been like, yeah, actually that makes a ton of sense. I hadn't thought about it that way. Even beginning in stone lifting, and we've said before, our first trip to Scotland was like, we're going to go and test ourselves against these Highland warriors, these men of the past, and then had a massive come to stone Jesus moment on that trip where it's like, that is not at all what it's about. But it took gaining that experience to help us sort of reposition our mindset on it. So yeah. So that's sort of talking about where you are now as this community builder. I want to sort of jump way back because we got a lot of stuff to dig into, but let's start at the very beginning. Like what was a young Pawel like? What sort of athletic pursuits was he involved into as a child, and how did that go from that point in time to now where you are, where you're essentially traveling and taking your gym with you? So.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to bore people too much that are listening, but born and raised in Poland. Right before the wall fell. So we had the upbringing was shaped a lot of perspective that I have now in terms of like how much stuff you actually need, like what's
Right.
valuable, what's worth, right? And some of the sacrifices like my parents made to kind of bring us over here. But in terms of like athletics and sports, I pretty much sucked at anything, right? So I grew up at Poland, Europe, football, soccer, right?
Yeah.
Kind of timely, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's going crazy right now. Yeah.
Yeah, Poland didn't make it again. So I adopted Scotland and Colombia as my teams right now. One doing better than the other, but we'll see. One can be hopeful. But I grew up on the pitch, so to speak. But I played goalie because I had like 2 left feet. And then moving over to the States, I kind of started dabbling with like the traditional kind of American sports. I was around 10, so it was like primarily basketball that kind of caught my interest very early on coming over. And then I was going into high school, more basketball, American football, into that. College, not good enough to play like for the college team. So intramural sports was the thing, right? So like flag football, again, more basketball. And then like I think my senior year in college is when I found the gym, so to speak. I had a tough breakup, and I had a lot more time on my hands. And I was always skinny, like growing up. Like really like a thin, like high school, I was 6'4", like 180 pounds. I wish I could, I wish I knew the conversion right off the bat, but I don't. I should, but then, and over like that senior year, like, traditional kind of bodybuilding, and I blew up from like 185 to like 220.
Holy smokes.
And then after that, I kind of really, that was kind of like my thing, like like bodybuilding, getting big, fucking, I know, explode, anything that's anything, right? All that good stuff, right? Like, uh,
Yeah, the only thing that exploded was the diarrhea from taking too
yeah,
much.
yeah.
It was gnarly.
I don't know if you guys ever heard of like prosource.net or like bodybuilding.com.
Yeah,
Those are like the stores
yeah,
that you hit up
yeah.
online. And then I got really big. So like in my mid 20s, I had some other what's the best way to put this? Other factors that I think I was a heavy drinker. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I think that also kind of had a factor in me kind of gaining a little weight. But I got up to like 265.
Oh,
I was like
Big boy.
massive.
Yeah.
full
Yeah,
supervillain story arc, eh? From like
Yeah.
the skinny guy getting the bad breakup to just like gym freak. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I had anger issues like very quick to like start a fight or like look for a fight,
Yeah.
type of thing. And then I I was very lucky enough that a beautiful lady came into my life and kind of, you're either with me or you're with this thing, right? And a lot of things started to change. We've been going strong for 13 years now, married for 11, so 14 going on 11, married. So very blessed for her in my life, kind of setting me straight, also helping me get cleaned up. But it was along that I found CrossFit through my brother. So that was probably like my early 30s, I think. I'm trying to off on dates, and through CrossFit, I was introduced to Olympic weightlifting, and I would probably say that was like my first love. For many reasons. One is probably because I shouldn't be doing. I was again 6'4". I wasn't as heavy then. I kind of lost a little bit of weight because I cut out drinking. But I was like 6'4", 225, 230. It's not fast by any means. Getting under the bar was not my specialty. Like, but it was just so fucking, excuse my French.
Good, man.
Oh,
Let it
yeah,
go.
it was so fucking hard for me to do it. Like trying to get like a front rack for the first time. It was like literally my elbows were just pointing straight down. That's as far as I could get, just like from repetitive bodybuilding style movements. And so I kind of pursued that first as an athlete, and I got an opportunity with a good friend of mine through the podcast that I had back in the day. So I kind of was interviewing first like local fitness kind of influencers, up and coming kind of experts in the field and local, and it kind of grew. Then we kind of took it on the road, got some big names to help the podcast grow, so to speak. But Tom Reaney at Black Flag Athletics kind of gave me my opportunity to coach. And I've coached other media. I was a basketball coach, like coaching high school basketball, freshman undefeated. What's up? But Tom Reaney gave me an opportunity to kind of pursue give me the shot to, hey, I see this in you. Let's start a barbell club. So I, kind of very ground roots, started building it over the course of several years. And it started with like one athlete, two athlete. We got up to 15, which is, a decent size for like the area and Olympic weightlifting, and obviously a tough sport to bring people into. Not a lot of notoriety, not a lot of money into it. Very similar to like stone lifting, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of parallels there. And we grew to become a very successful team, state titles, multiple national championships, and then I walked away, so to speak. Even though that Olympic lifting was a passion, I loved coaching it. Travel was something that Alina and I always kind of discussed, right? If we had the opportunity, if it presented itself, and I think the barbell club and the gym were kind of at a precipice. We kind of outgrown what we could, like, I think we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, right? Athletes were moving on as well. So we had a very friendly conversation with Tom and Pete, who was the co-owner at the time. And we kind of closed the books. We thought it was the right time. It was actually right after we hosted states a few years back. And then Alina and I and our family kind of hit the road. We sold our house and we just left. We traveled in Canada, up in Nova Scotia, down in New England, and then we jumped over the pond into Europe, UK, And when that happens, you can't take a barbell on a plane, right? So, and at that point, it was, I wanted to do something that, like my grandma was a very, very important figure in my life. When my parents were over in the States, kind of setting things up, it was a very long process. She took care of like the rambunctious kids, right? There was four of us. I was the youngest, so I always got beat up by the neighborhood and my siblings in a good way, right? But like God bless her heart, like she passed away from Alzheimer's, and I never got a chance to kind of say goodbye because I was away in college. Um, so I wanted to do something in her name and kind of raise money for the Alzheimer's Association. So I started running, just kind of again hard left turn. I started running again, not very good at it to start, running way too fast, too soon. But it just kind of built over time, and it's just kind of kept with it. Eventually, run my first half, and then my marathon, and then I found the trails, and I was like, oh, this is a different ball game. Like it's actually a beautiful thing where where your 2 feet can take you type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's I like to say that kind of the recent saying I picked up is that, like life is a privilege, and a healthy life is like a luxury. And when you have both, it's beautiful to see where it kind of takes you and you take advantage of the opportunities. So yeah, I started running mountains across like Europe and the UK. And it was again a great time for several years, but then one day I looked in the mirror and I was back to being 6'4" and 180. Right. So,
Yeah.
and on our last trip back up to Scotland a couple years ago, we were heading up, and I was following. I've been following Callum McLean,
Yeah. Yeah.
for quite a long time. Like, and he was getting into stone lifting, and he was like connecting with the stone lifting community. So like, hey, it's even though I'm still running, I could maybe potentially start maybe paying attention to strength training a little bit more. So I had a couple like events and a couple of things I wanted to do in the kind of ultra space, like ultra trail space. So we were up there in the summer, but I was like, hey, I think this is time because I don't like this. I don't like myself the way I see, like the way I'm looking in the mirror, just selfish speaking, egotistically speaking. So we have to make some changes. So started introducing strength work, and we had sandbags, right? You can pack those in the bag. So I just fill them up, dump them, fill them up every time we moved, because we would switch Airbnbs like every month, every 2 months. And then when in Rome, in Scotland, right? Obviously, kind of nice. One of the catalysts for many of us, right, is stone lifting. So I was like, I actually did lift the historic stone years previously on a previous trip to Scotland, but that was like when I was still like bodybuilding, and that was the Puterack, and we were actually going to see the Rob Roy's grave, and then we just happened to see after watching Stoneland, hey, it's like a walking distance. And now Jamie's got a beautiful stone up on the hill there too, overlooking the loch. But yeah, I was like, so I kind of like, hey, I had this kind of little inception point way back then, and stone lifting, and in its essence, it's literally the lowest, like there's no barrier to entry. Like the lowest, like running is stone lifting. Like you got your 2 feet, and then you got stones laying around. So I started kind of doing that, and it's kind of grown ever since. Over the past, I think, year and a half, I've been kind of really kind of stuck to that, and I think I've kind of found my thing after trying all these different things.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's admirable for you and Alina to take the family on like, did you have children at the point where you started traveling as well?
We did, yeah. So he was very little. I think when we sold the house and hit the road, he was a few months short of a year. Yeah.
That's just
Yeah. And then we had
a lot of people. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Right, and we have a dog and a cat, just to make it more.
Just to add a little more.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people talk about that. My wife and I have talked about it. A lot of people do romanticize the idea of taking time to travel abroad and spend time together as your family is young. And it's hard to make that leap of faith. So the fact that you two kind of, bit the bullet, so to speak, and I did that is pretty amazing. I'm kind of curious, because as a parent, there are times when it can be a struggle to even get some moments to spend with your own self, with your, to spend time in your own head. And I can only imagine when you're traveling, the ability to have those breaks are even more limited. Do you think in any way that the onset of the running was an opportunity where you could get out and just kind of clear the cobwebs and spend some time in your own head? And I guess sort of a part B to that question too, or was there an aspect of wanting to explore these new surroundings by way of just hitting the trail and seeing what you could find?
So great questions. On the latter, definitely, right? I think there's probably no better way to kind of get familiar with new places than just, walk it, run it, whatever, kind of floats your boat, drive around, obviously talk to people, talk to the locals. On the former, I don't think I thought about it that way, to be honest. I think I was very much, I think it definitely served that purpose. And I'm very appreciative of Lena giving me the opportunity and to be able to kind of get out on my own and do my thing.
Yeah.
When the mileage added up, it was, back-to-back days. You're gone for 5 hours, just like up in the hills, right? And she's with our little one, so I was very grateful for her giving me the opportunity to do that, right? And I would not have been able to do that if she didn't give me the space to do so. But yeah, I was very much I wanted to chase peaks. I was like, when we're up in Scotland, I want to bag all these Munros, right? When we're in Poland, I want to summit the highest of the Beskids, right? Or the Korkonosha, whichever area we're in. I was like, I got Strava now. I got to be the local legend, like.
Yeah.
So it became an unhealthy obsession in a way, right? And I think that's why I found myself that I kind of pushed the needle a little too hard, and I was that stick again. That there's nothing wrong with it, just not for me, right? Probably the frame that you want to be for if you want to put mileage on your body. I'm not saying I couldn't do it now, but it might be a little bit more challenging. I'm like 225 now, so I'm a good kind of fighting weight. But no, those are terrific questions. Yeah, it was definitely an escape, in one shape, form, or another. Maybe just my inner demons, right? Not necessarily from the. But I think when we left, I think we knew what we're kind of getting ourselves into to an extent. And to your point, I think people do romanticize about it. There are definitely opportunities and challenges, especially when you're together all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've kind of grown into that, but we also kind of appreciate that family dynamic too, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to be together as much as we did when we traveled. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it that made you switch gears out of that high intensity running that you were doing? Was there an injury that kind of made you have self-reflection, or did you kind of just go, whoa, this is really kind of taking over a little
Like
too
Christian Bale from The Machinist.
too much
I'm
of
not
me?
liking it.
Yeah. Like I know you'd mentioned it was your figure, but was there anything else, or was it just that one moment of reflection where you're like, okay, it's time to switch gears?
Yeah, in a nutshell, and very much so. I think I was like, I want to be strong again. Again, strength being relative, right?
Of course.
And I maintained some sort of kind of physical training as much as, and obviously running is a form of that, for pursuit of that. But no, like the shirts that I used to like fit me, like, or like, you put the same clothes on, and obviously you loose, like they're baggy, right?
Yeah.
So it was definitely kind of it was a very selfish, egotistical like decision.
No, it's not. That's not necessary. I don't look at it that way at all, to be honest. It's just a point of reflection of seeing what you've lost and how hard you had worked to put that muscle on in the first place.
Yeah.
And when it's kind of withered away, you go, oh, okay, that's different. And I don't like that. Right. And that's okay, man. That's not egotistical at all. I get it.
Yeah. And then, lifting was obviously it wasn't as easy as it used to be, nearly as busy, right, when I tried to pursue it. So I was like, hey, let's shift these gears. And I think obviously the environment was a big cue, right? We're going up to Scotland, Callum's kind of scratching the itch that I had a while ago, just briefly. And I think I started connecting with other folks as well, just to kind of researching stuff and whatnot. And I was like, hey, if I want to be able to lift these stones, I also have to prepare myself physically to lift these stones, right?
Sure.
So that, because no matter how light or how heavy, you do have to prepare yourself, right?
Absolutely.
To lift that thing. So yeah, Dave, that I think as you're giving me the opportunity to kind of reflect on it more through that questioning, I think it was more just also, hey, if I do have this kind of if I want, if this is what I want to accomplish for myself when up in Scotland, besides the ultras, but also be able to lift these historic stones, then I should definitely start to take a deeper look at my training program.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And that's like everybody though, is you can't go over to these stones lightly. They're a pretty serious thing. And that's part of what makes it so exciting for so many people. It is that, that test down the road that you have something to work towards, right? It's motivating to know that something's challenging and, hey, if I want to do this thing, I got to put some effort in, right? And I think that draws a lot of people to these. It's one of the many beautiful things about a stone tour, being able to go and like we have our sites here. And I know you've done some modern stone, setting up modern stones. And it's one thing to be able to go and lift those whenever you want, just for fun. But when you're setting your sights on that particular goal in that place, it really puts a fire under your ass to get yourself going.
Yeah, and I had the bright idea too that I was going to do one of these after 110K, and that was also like it was a Clachnir. There's like a graveyard. I forget the exact location, but there's like two of them. There's a lighter one and a heavier one. A graveyard right by it. It's actually one of the ones that Callum first kind of found that he got into it. So again, he was a huge influence in me getting back in stone. But me trying to, probably not a smart idea to do it after 110K, because it just like felt obviously tremendously heavy. But like when obviously when you do get it, it's very. I mean, when you lift that stone for the first or the 50th or the 1,000th time, that was a kind of a very challenging thing for you to do. You want to do it more, right? And it becomes a new obsession, right? Just like the things in the past.
It being having been Father's Day yesterday, and happy Father's Day, by the way, both you gentlemen and any of the fathers that are listening. This is something, and I just started thinking about this right now when you mentioned that, you're with your family, you're traveling, you're running, and there was that moment of self-reflection where you didn't like what you saw in the mirror. And I know, like when I had my first son, there was definitely, there was a time for pause and consideration to see if the person that I was the one that I wanted my son to get to know as he grew up. Because I always remember, like, our father was a police officer, triathlete, like incredibly physically capable person. And when you're a little kid, you're like, my dad's the strongest in the world. My dad's the toughest in the world. Like there was this sense of pride you had as a child in knowing how capable your parents, and same goes for our mom too, knowing how capable your parents are. And I'm wondering, was there maybe a bit of that where you go, okay, as a father, you kind of want to be the superhero that your son looks up to. And in a lot of ways, the kids are going to measure that by not only who you are, but also how you look.
I think just kind of zooming, I just want to set in like a good example for him, right? That, hey, if there is something that you want to pursue, if you kind of put your heart to it, you can, and you can accomplish it, right? And that's what running, stone lifting, building Legos, right? Right. Whatever
those things going increasing difficulty. Running stone lifting, building Legos. That's like the
Legos,
ultimate.
but yeah, I mean,
apart more so.
Yeah, as you guys know, they watch us, right? They see how we handle ourselves, how we act, right? So it's not just like our physical pursuits, but it's in the day to day, like how we communicate with our partners, with my wife, or with like how we communicate with each other, how we treat people, right? It's they look at you and they see how like the language that you use, how you handle yourself, how you act, how you respond or not, how you react at times, right? So I think it's definitely part of the bigger picture, right? So when I was running, he's like, oh, Daddy's going out running, right? And then he's coming back, right? So he was running around. And now, but obviously it's a transition. He's like, hey, he's picking up stones, he's lifting stones. He's like, he gets a little frustrated when they're a little too heavy. And I'm like, so we have to be back. Yeah, exactly. But he's also, I mean, some of the just like watching him, it's also is a good point of reflection, like. If like he, just because of how obviously small he is and like the way his body moves and the body awareness, he's kind of coming into it. I'm learning from him as well, right? So it kind of goes both ways. That even though he's only 5, I can pick up a lot of him, like how he's approaching the stone and how he's trying to figure it out. Because me, I'm kind of too, stubborn headed. Is like, oh, this is the way I want to pick this up because this feels good, right? But what if I just flip it around, twist it another way, right? I mean, he got it, why can't I? Type of thing, right? So just approaching him with an open mind, right? Don't don't necessarily study him too much because, again, frustrated impatience are not the forte of a 5-year-old, right? But yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, us setting an example in terms of how we can handle ourselves as adults, as human beings. And a part of that is our physical pursuits or interests that we have otherwise.
Yeah. And you made an interesting point that got me thinking just a moment ago there about how watching the child try and figure the stone out. And when they're doing this stuff, even though they get frustrated, there's such a huge element of play involved in it, right? And that's something that I love, like with our sessions down at the Granite Garden for the Edmonton Stones of Strength with our buddies down there, is that element of, I don't want to say childlike play, but a lot of it is play. These aren't set routines. These aren't set workouts. You're going down, maybe you want to lift one stone, but the guy's got working on another stone and guys flip it around and play with it. And I personally, that's play for me. That's fun. And I think that it's very easy to get a little bit too caught up in the numbers and, well, I've shouldered something this heavy, like I have to move up this next level, right? And obviously so much of us are drawn to the progression. Progression's very motivating, but I do think there's such a beautiful element of play in all of this that I at least cherish a lot. And so it just made me think about that when you're talking about your son doing it, because our guys do it too, and they play around with it, and it's all fun and games, right? And it's just an interesting perspective to see a child tackle the same task that you're going for.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think it's again, this is just kind of my lens, my perspective. For a lot of us, for most of us, and I could be wrong, this is a hobby, right? We're not getting paid, right, to lift stones, right?
Cost money.
Yes, it all costs money.
Yeah,
not making anything off it.
Right? Yeah. So if you are taking yourself too seriously too often, you're not going to necessarily bear the fruit of how rewarding the pursuit itself can be.
Yeah.
Right. I grew up in my through coaching like Greg Everett, Callus Athletics. That's like I'm like his disciple, right? And one of the things he talks about is like your ability to kind of back off and find that sense of play, no matter how regimented your programming would be, right? And I think for many of us, we do follow a program. If you don't, probably good. It's something that I haven't always done, but especially recently. But even within that program, have the pliability, right? Have the flexibility to kind of auto-regulate. Hey, this is not the day. Let's go out there and have fun with it.
That's a huge part of it, and that's something I've mentioned before. But that was something like I used to do steel bending during COVID, and it really gnarly way. Pardon me, I'm just getting over a cold. To train my grip, and I'm fine now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm just getting the gunk out. But when I was steel bending, let's say there was a big bar or horseshoe I wanted to bend or snap, and if I failed on it that day, instead of getting frustrated, I would shift gears and take on a smaller bar, do a different type of thing, and always kind of leave your training program or for that day, that session, on a positive note. And so that is stuff that we do all the time when we're all training together down there. Is like, let's say there's a certain stone I want to hit, and if I can't hit it, I don't get butthurt and pouty about it. I'll go, well, I guess today isn't my day. I know I've hit it in the past. I know I can hit in the future. So today, pardon me, today we'll do some carries, or we're going to do some row work or some rep work or whatever. And again, that's that element of play that's non-regimented training. And sometimes the best lessons and the best workouts come out from those days, because they've done studies on this. And I don't want to bastardize the actual stats, but it's something like, you will learn 4 times quicker if you're in the lens of play. They did it on child development. And so if you teach them in one environment versus a play environment, you're going to learn just the way your brain works much better. And so those days when you're just down there with the guys or by yourself having a play, with all of this stuff, you're going to learn a lot better and enjoy it more, and probably truly get a lot more out of that training session from an actual like physiological point of view as well. That's at least my insight.
Injury prevention too, right?
Yeah.
If you allow yourself the permission to not always perform at your best, you're not going to push past something that maybe, your body is regulating your performance, telling you today is not the day, and
chill
you
out,
don't
man.
listen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. And then you hurt yourself and set yourself back who knows how many weeks or days.
And I've done it many times. Yeah. Like our trip to Iceland last year, I was bunch of injuries leading up to it. Cause I'm like, no, I have to hit these numbers because these stones are there. When I had lumbar that seized up and an SI joint out of place. And then, you get better. And 3 weeks later, you do the same thing. You're like, this isn't the way.
Yeah.
This is not the way. Anyways.
Yeah, I think it's very similar, but I think it's like open loop versus closed loop like activities, right? Where it's like free form versus like, hey, this is like the direct structure, like, and the benefit you get from that open loop versus closed loop. Yeah, for sure. I was going to mention something else, but I completely forgot, so I apologize.
No,
So
but come back, let us know. Yeah.
Anytime then.
I think the other thing that's cool too, because there's a lot of awesome videos of you lifting with your little one there and things like that. Like, I think it is an opportunity to stone lifting doesn't teach you patience, but it gives you an opportunity to exercise patience. And I think it's important, whether it's your children watching you or other lifters or things like that, to show that, you can you can take time, you can have setbacks, you can stop, think, you can regroup, and you can come at it a different way and maybe have some success or maybe not. But the fact that, you don't have to just keep beating your head against the wall if it's not working that way. Like we've said so many times, that the stone will kind of teach you how it needs to be lifted for your specific physiology. And I think that with little ones watching, it's such a great opportunity to show them like, hey, you know what, either daddy wasn't strong enough today, or you know what, I can't do it this way. Let's try to figure out how we can do it and how we can get some success out of the session. So
Yeah, he thinks he's stronger than I am, so I'm chasing him right now.
there you go. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a perfect 5-year-old
Oh
mentality.
man, that's perfect, because there will come a time where that becomes a reality, right?
Yeah.
And as parents, you try to sort of stave that off for as long as possible, but for the most part, it's an inevitability. So, yeah. So one of the other things too, David, how you had mentioned, when we have our sessions down at the Granite Garden, like we do almost have the permission just to play, because we're not worried about egos or outperforming each other, or, well, so-and-so thinks they're stronger than me, so if they do this, I've got to do it twice and whatnot. It's so important to be able to surround yourself with a group of like-minded lifters. That's what makes it fun and enjoyable. And something that you have done a very good job of is, when you have the opportunity, you surround yourself with a wicked crew in the New England Stone Lifting group, which I know you were just down lifting with. Was it last week or?
Yeah, last week. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's again just connecting through like social media, right? Coming back to the US, when we did, knowing that those guys are there, right, and we're going to be spending some time there. Yeah, let's take the opportunity to kind of meet these guys and gals in person, and maybe if it was on the Pacific, you never know. Like maybe you were coming back from China, we landed in Oregon. We might be hanging out with you guys, right? Type of thing, right? Just you never know like how it unfolds. But they kind of adopted me, and that kind of speaks to, obviously, to the much of the character of the community as a whole, right? Like, in terms of like how open we are, transparent we are. Obviously, there's a few bad apples here and there, right? In any kind of yeah. But the way kind of, especially like Jared and like recently, like Mikey and Seth, like my little guy adores like Seth and Mikey. They were just like, they're like his homies, right? Right. Which is like, again, the character and the integrity in which they handle themselves around someone like that. And they don't have to, right? Like, yes, he's with me and they know me like as a stone lifter, but they don't necessarily have to extend themselves like they have, right? But they're just their personality, right? So yeah, just coming back to the US, getting to meet those guys in person and just kind of having just like relationships flourish out of that, and not just outside of stone lifting, right? The stone was just the kind of the conduit, so to speak, to kind of connect and then become friends, and become really good friends ever since, right? So yeah, it was a really good time, and that was pretty much, that's what it's about. It was more than the stone themselves, just getting a chance to first and foremost meet those guys, and then more recently just reconnect with them. Obviously, we were there last year, so hey, Mikey has a little event on the weekend. We're gonna make a little holiday out of it, and go up to New Hampshire. Is obviously a beautiful part of the world, beautiful part of the States. Not as nice as the Pacific Northwest, but it was still very, very nice indeed. And it gave us our family also kind of time to disconnect from the day to day. Like the last year has been kind of also very challenging in terms of like some personal things and like personal health issues in the family. So having in a way that distraction to be able to step away from that and spend time with with people that kind of appreciate our values and perspectives. It was a very healthy environment for us to kind of step away from what's happening back home, to be able to kind of step into that for, escape, so to speak, for,
Yeah.
5-6 days.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've talked a lot about how on a stone tour, the stone creates the destination for an adventure. But I've never really thought about this, or at least thought to articulate it. But in the same way, it does that same thing with the community as well. So, the stones are creating just an opportunity to hang out and get together with like-minded people and enjoy yourself. It's the same way, you get a bunch of people sitting around in a circle staring at the ground. You're a bunch of weirdos, but you put a fire pit in the middle and all of a sudden you're having a hangout. Like, it's permissible, right? It's the same with stones. Like, if there was a bunch of guys hanging out down at a picnic site together, people might think we're a little bit weird. But the fact that, well, I bet you if they walk by and we're stone lifting, they think we're even weirder. But for us, it's normal, right? The stones are just the excuse to get together on the Saturday and have a fire and hang out. And it's, as an adult and as parents, I think it's very important to be able to maintain those moments of connection with other people, because you do spend so much time pouring your effort into your family that you do need to, just sort of similar how I'd asked you about when you were doing your runs. Is that an opportunity to spend some time with yourself? Stone lifting is an opportunity to either do that, spend some time with yourself, or to get together with a great community of people. So
Yeah, exactly. And it gives us, and also, like, my little one, obviously he's kind of, I don't know if you can call them friends, but obviously they're a little old.
Yeah.
But like, he can see that, other people are doing this too, right? Not just daddy, right? Daddy's not nuts with collecting rocks and bringing them home, right, and throw them in the backyard. But also obviously Alina, getting to talk to somebody besides me, right? Sort of thing, right? Just like a fresh environment is a breath of fresh air for everybody involved, right? And just like talking to Big Red, like Brian, like he's kind of like, I don't know, he like Mikey's like my brother from another mother, because we're like very much in like the similar kind of like pagan folk things, like, traditions, things like that. Big Red is like very similar, but just in a different way. He also has like a little one who's kind of like picking up on things. So just like being able to just like connect and kind of chat on these things when you might not have to create the opportunity otherwise, which kind of speaks to that, and maybe an opportunity in itself to maybe connect more outside of these tours, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, like hopping on a phone call with Jared the other day, just to talk about after the stone tour, like, you again create friends, create lasting relationships, creating lasting impressions on the people that you're around.
Absolutely. We got a chance to meet some of those fellas and gals last year at the NoFim game, and they're just a lovely group of people. They're so welcoming, they're so positive, and they just have just a really endearing, nice outlook on what stone lifting is for them. And I think a lot of people could learn a lot about the mentality they go into all this with. It's a good group of people.
Yeah, can't recommend them. I mean, I can't recommend you guys highly enough. I can't recommend them highly enough. Again, it's just like how we open the conversation. Just it's valuable to kind of experience like shared perspective or shared values, but also be open to be challenged by others, right? Hey, maybe I'm not doing this the right way, or maybe I'm not thinking about the right way, or maybe, hey, it's an interesting way of looking at it. But no, I think the different pockets, obviously there's different pockets of stone lifting communities, and I think we all kind of have our own kind of like
flavor.
Right. But it's even cooler when there's a potential for those to kind of come together, right, and see how they mesh, how they potentially clash. You never know, right? But in a friendly, hopefully way, right?
Yeah.
Mutually respectful, if nothing else, you'd hope, right?
Exactly. Us being adults, hopefully that's most of us are
most of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had mentioned before, you were saying, there are some bad apples, and I think just the same in that, a community is a group of people that have a commonality. They share either an interest or a regional geography or set of beliefs or whatever it is. They don't have to be aligned on all things. And just like, people who are a community based on where they live, just because your neighbor's an asshole doesn't mean you get to say they're not part of my community anymore, right? They're still there, and you have
Yes.
to just manage your interactions with them, and that's just part of being in a giant diverse world of people. That just because someone may not align with you doesn't mean you get to ignore them or push them to the outside. So I mean, it is easy to unfollow or to block people if need be, but I think when you talk about the New England folks, when you get enough people bringing positivity to the forefront, even for someone who maybe is not as positive, being around them just via osmosis, they're going to take a lot of that on board and say, like, all these people are having fun and they're able to set aside differences. Like, why can I not do that? Right? It's hard to not do that around a group like that. So,
for sure. And I think that's the kind of the what we're kind of stepping into as the stone lifting community grows is like, take on, I don't want to say mental, maybe a little too, maybe too courageous of a term, but highlight the people that are doing it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And that right way is obviously open to interpretation a little bit to a point, right? But yeah, like with the Strength Stone Collective, I personally want to showcase people and doing it the right way on multiple levels, right? Not just how to lift stones, especially historic stones, but also how to Dale, to your earlier point, how you treat the environment, like obviously nature itself, but also respectful. I love lifting stones in nature, right? It's waterfalls, whatever, right? Mountains, but also be mindful of like you really want to limit your footprint, right? So are we doing that or minimizing the footprint? And when we do lift in those kind of beautiful places, beautiful spaces, but also again how we treat each other, right? And then we can hopefully continue to do that by just educating and highlighting those that do it well.
Yeah,
very well said.
I think it's important for everyone when they go to lift, whether it's a modern stone or a historical stone, they have to understand that in that moment, in that interaction, whether it be with the stone itself or with the landowner, you are a steward of that stone and you are the representative of the entire stone lifting community. And so you need to make sure that when you are there, you are putting your best foot forward. Like you said, you're not leaving garbage. You're not leaving a mess everywhere. If it's maybe muddy or wet conditions, you're not going in and trashing land. You're asking for the proper permissions before you go there. You're worrying about setting down the stone, not just for the integrity of the stone, but so you're not damaging the property around there. Because as we've seen over the past couple of months with some of the bad actors that have, disrespected stones, I think there's a number of risks that puts those stones and other stones. Number one, there could be the physical damage to the stone. There could be physical damage or harm to the person. And on private land, there is the concern over landowners just saying, listen, this is just too much bother. There's potential for litigation. It's just not worth it. And I'm going to make sure that these stones are no longer accessible to people. Like, could you imagine if someone were to try and overhead press a stone and get severely injured, how many councils or whatnot would just be like, this stone lifting thing has got to stop because we can't have people walking onto public or private land hurting themselves. So
I think people neglect that point of view as well. And they may not think about it that way, or they may not care that way, but yeah, like when you've got guys bench pressing the Barravin stone in the coffin, right? Or bench pressing the half-sturker in the rain on the plinth at Latra, and you're not thinking about, you're thinking about, will this look cool? Will this help my ego? You're not thinking about, will this be a net positive or a net negative? If anything goes wrong, sure, you don't want to look at the through everything as negative lens. Like, what is the worst case scenario that could happen? But when you're starting to put yourself in real harm's way, you have to kind of like have a little light bulb in your head go off and go, is this a good idea?
Your survival instinct should kick in.
Yeah. And I think that's neglected for the gram a lot these days.
There's an old, I don't say old saying, metaphor. I don't know if it's like Joe DeSena or Zach Evanesh, kind of dating myself here a little bit in terms of like the podcast, but I think either one of them is like you can tell a lot about a person if they put the shopping cart back or not, right?
Absolutely.
So very similar, and again, to an extent, I think it's very much about like the stone, right? It's how you lift, how you handle the stone, and again, to extrapolate how you handle those around you, I think speaks a lot to your kind of character and integrity, how you handle yourself outside of that, right? So if you have little care and respect, this might be gross generalization, I appreciate that when I say this, that you have little care for the stone, it probably bleeds over into other aspects of your life, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's very likely.
Might be a small microcosm or yeah.
Which is why it is really important that we have pages like the one that the Strength Stones Collective, Stones and Steel, that are thinking about these sort of things when they are sharing, because it's not very likely. It is an impossibility that a person who is unfamiliar with stone lifting hasn't found it through your page. Just as, there's so many, great pages out there, but so when they come and they see, and they're seeing an amalgamation of essentially what, at least, from your viewpoint, which I know we seem to align very closely on it, is what is good examples of stone lifting. They're finding those all in one place as a representation of not just, people within a specific community, but you have lifts from lifters from across the entire world. So they're getting a window into what is acceptable stone lifting behavior from, east to west, north to south. And I think that's really important, that not only are you showing, the diverse places that these people are lifting in, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
But you're showing that there is a common thread or understanding of how the stones are to be lifted. So.
Yeah, and hopefully that again that gets across. So because if people are spending enough time, to you guys' point, if people are spending enough time on Instagram, and a lot of people do, then they will come across one of our pages, right? And when they do that, they should hopefully see an example of how to handle themselves in those multiple facets, right? When you're stone lifting.
Yeah, and also you just need to do there's a lot of excuses being made for people just with the arms up in the air, I didn't know type thing. Is just, as a decent human being, you have to have that base level of due diligence. If you're traveling somewhere, try and understand the customs that you're going to be lifting, right? Like if you come here, we've had conversations about this, and might be conducting ourselves a little different. Is sometimes we drop training stones onto the soft ground that we have raked, that we have seen mud pit. We know every square inch of everything, right? But that is something that we're okay on. We're okay with training stones here. That also is something that maybe if people only saw that, they might go, it's okay to drop. But if you're going to be going to Scotland or Ireland, that's not here at this one site. You need to, if you take the time and spend all the money to travel somewhere, you really need to do a base level of diligence as to how to conduct yourself. Like, this is a really silly example, but when I did a lot of backpacking when I was done university, and you try and learn these little customs. Like when I was in Malaysia, I had to train myself to point with my thumb. I know that sounds really silly, but it's rude to point with your finger there. And that is such a minor thing that you're trying to retrain your brain for, just to try and be respectful for the short period of time you're somewhere. You add on the layer of hundreds of years of history into these stones. And I think just people need to maybe work a little harder to be decent, if that's fair to say.
Yeah. And I don't want to, I like to pull the thread and generalize, but not, I guess not intentionally. Again, I think it speaks a lot about the person, right? And maybe we could give them a benefit of the doubt, right? To an extent.
There are
right?
times that we've done it big time. Yeah, there are those times for sure.
Yeah, and so I don't want to say everybody's a fucking asshole that drops a stone, right?
Certainly not. Not even close to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very few people.
But I think to your point, Dave, it's like if you're going to Scotland, you have to drive on the other side of the road, right? If you're coming from the US or Canada, right? So you're picking those things up, right? You're learning those customs, right? So and this is part of the culture, right? Like I'm heading to Ireland. We're heading to Ireland in September, right? And awesome. I love to shoulder. I love to shoulder stones or attempt to shoulder stones. I'm like I talk to Andy, I talk to Martin. I'm like, I'm gonna be chesting, right? There's no need for me to try to be a hero. Like that's the tradition. I'm gonna follow the tradition. But more importantly, I just want to be in those beautiful places, right? I think I've stolen your quote millions of times. Like the stone sets the destination. This is one of those. This is one of those examples, and I don't think Irish stones get enough love, too, right?
We'll be going there next year to give him some love. So yeah.
So there you go. So I think speaking to Andy Downs, obviously he has a fantastic following already, right? He's growing. He has the melodic voice on his own.
It's so good.
You just listen to Andy all day long. But it's just like speaking to him, it's like there's still a lot of stones there that haven't necessarily Obviously, you have to be careful with it too, right? Because obviously, we're seeing what happens with Scotland, right? You kind of invite what necessarily doesn't want to be invited. But yeah, there's stones that he wants people to go visit, right? To like to go lift, right? Because they haven't been lifted by many, right? So it's an invention and exploration in itself.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's I think maybe one final point on that, the whole sort of respecting of this is, a lot of people maybe don't think about it uh, as diligently as they should because it is a stone, right? When we think about hard objects, endurative objects, robust things, right? Stones are right in there, and I think it's because it is a stone. But as someone who's been a geologist for 15 years, I can promise you that incremental drops will increase the likelihood over a long enough timeline. Every single historical stone that we know of today and don't know of will break. It is just an artifact of time. No one beats time. No stone beats time. Mountains crumble. Continental plates move. It's just it is what it is. So it is incumbent upon us to do everything we can to try to prolong that timeline for that stone to break. And especially in cold climates, frost wedging is an absolute assassin of stones. And I think with almost certainty, that is one of the reasons why the Strathmore of Durness was so damaged, was because it is a sedimentary stone. It has those planes of weakness inherent in the stone, and those are utilized by water infiltration and ice to cause damage. And so, I was talking with Ryan Stewart about it after a spout of bad lifting, I think a couple months ago. I said, thank God we aren't passionate about lifting historical pottery. Like we're pretty lucky at stones, because I would really be banging my head against a wall when some of these videos come out.
That is, I mean, it is a bit of a stretch, right?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't, it's again, in different cultures like Scotland, Ireland, Sweden, Middle East, right? These are, I mean, it's a cultural artifact, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this might be a stretch, but like in Poland, there's these little shrines, right? Because Poland is a massive, it's like 99% Catholic, so there's like a church or a little kapliczka, like a little shrine, like very frequently, especially like in the villages. Like you won't get like it's like a Starbucks, right? Type of thing,
Yeah.
right? In the US. You're not gonna go in there and smash that down, right? Because it is a piece of that culture, right? You wouldn't want to do that and deface that. I mean, like you wouldn't think twice, right? You wouldn't think about doing. So why would you do that with stones? So I potentially like reframing stones as not stones, but being like artifacts, like we're talking about, like pieces of
Yeah.
other people's culture,
Yeah.
right?
They're
To a
strength
fact-
artifacts.
Yeah.
Exactly, and in some cases they might have been. We don't know. Maybe they were just tests of strength, or maybe they were worshipped and by some individuals. No matter how long they've gone, we just don't have that history potentially on the stones, right?
Yeah, and something we do. I mean, in Ireland, like there's a lot of they were cursing stones, or they were holy wells or whatnot. Like and it is nice to know. And unfortunately, again, it is a product of some bad behavior that everyone has seen. There is a lot of discussion within various pockets of Stonington community about what more can be done, and a lot of it does centralize around spreading information and making sure that it is visible to anyone going to lift stones that this is a historical artifact and it should be lifted as such. So, and unfortunately, a lot of that, is needing to be done in Scotland, because that's where we're seeing a lot of this bad behavior. But in speaking of Scotland, so that was the first place that you lifted a historical stone. After going back, and you were saying, your kind of your career as a runner was kind of tapering off, and you were finding this new avenue to build strength. Where was that at in your travels? Were there the countries that you visited where you got involved in stone lifting there?
Yeah, and there weren't too many stops after that. So after our kind of last visit to the UK and Scotland specifically, I had like kind of like my bucket list with which like the stones I thought would be within my capability at that given strength and kind of preparation levels. So it was like Dalwhinnie, Newton Moore, the Raven, some of the quote I mean lighter or heavier depending on obviously who you are.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, this is the thing for me. And then we traveled to Poland one last time before coming back to the States for kind of a brief stint. But I made sure that hey, I'm gonna stick with this, right? This is kind of my vibe. I've always I kind of like reflecting back a little bit more on like my strength training. And I never thought like I really fit in, right? So it was like again running and Olympic weightlifting, like too big, to like too skinny, right? Too tall type of thing. But like stone lifting doesn't really matter what kind of what what shape
Right.
what shape you are,
For the
right?
most part, we
Yeah,
got
yeah.
one buddy that struggles because of his shape, but
It's arm
Yes,
length
yeah,
north of the middle.
yeah, he's 5'3",
for sure.
220, so it's very
Power ounce,
difficult
but yeah.
when you
Okay.
got these little T-Rex arms and big thick thighs. Yeah, he doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah, and then the stone doesn't judge you either, right? And for the most part,
No, it
community
doesn't.
either, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's like, yeah, this is like kind of the spot for me, kind of find my home there. And yeah, so and then yeah, so essentially, it's really kind of picking up strength training a little bit more and more, kind of dedicating, getting buying heavier sandbags. Obviously, sign of progress. Like you buying bigger sandbags, you start lifting. Something's working, right? Because you obviously. So a lot of like newbie gains, like the first year back. Obviously, kind of you haven't strengthened for a while. You kind of the progress kind of is like, whew, well, this is gonna
Very
last forever.
encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. But as we all know, but yeah, I mean, it's still now. It's not just kind of now. It's kind of like incremental gains, right? So to speak. I'm not. I don't say I'm kind of long in the tooth, and it's like training age too, and obviously not just physical age. But now it's just not, again, progress can be measured in multiple ways, right? Can you lift a stone a different way, right? Can you hold it long in a certain position? Because of kind of my approach to training, with just strictly kind of stones, bags, and recently, like I spent a little bit too much money on kettlebells from Rogue, but
No, great tool.
yeah, the progression hasn't. It's not necessarily as linear as you would maybe with like traditional strength training if you have access. There's nothing wrong with it. It just, but I appreciate it for what it's worth, right? That it might take me a little longer to do certain things, but it's more about kind of, not to sound wishy-washy, but more about the process, right? And where it kind of takes me, right? Where do I get to lift the stone? Who do I get to lift it with? And potentially where can I find a cool looking spot where to place it, right? If there are stuff around. Yeah. So that's the intention right now, is just like, hey, I've gotten to this place, which I think is for me, a beautiful place to be in. I do have kind of, by this, getting spurred by the community and some of the friends in New England. I do have my sights on some stones, just to kind of keep pushing me a little bit, not to get too comfortable and content. Hey, I'm good where I'm at. I think it also, like going back to like to the little one, showing him you can still progressing as you advance in your age. You get more gray hair in your beard and your hair type of thing.
I hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, I have not been able to. I've been trying very hard to take my eyes off your beard.
Got a little mullet going on too.
I've seen Dale's, but you don't grow it out very often.
No,
right?
I'm on vacation from work. As a firefighter, I can't have a beard because of
Yeah.
our masks. And so, when I'm on vacation, I just let it go. But I plan on keeping the mustache for a bit. There's a lot of power between the mustache and my mullet. My aura is feeling pretty good right now, and I might go with that.
Yeah, pass that, through osmosis. They pass that along through the computer. But yeah, it's been a great ride, and it's been, I think, kind of going on 2 years now since I kind of really picked up that first stone, like really kind of focusing on stone lifting.
Yeah, I know your first instance after running 110 kilometers lifting a stone, you probably wasn't a good barometer for what your ability level was going to be like getting into this. But have you found that your base in Olympic lifting has afforded you maybe a level of strength that isn't common to newer lifters? That's part one of the question. The other part too is, and this is something actually is in particular to you in the way that you lift, because the way I have always understood Olympic lifting to be is very explosive. But when I see videos of you lift above almost anyone else, you're so collected and calm and smooth, and it looks like there is no, and maybe you're just masking this, which is congratulations, because Matt comes across really well, but no wasted effort. Everything is intentional and efficient and controlled. So
Oh, thank you. So I do hide it very well.
there you go.
Yeah.
Next question.
I'm not even to eat that bag. No. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of carryover from Olympic weightlifting. And I think that's how I approach sandbags and probably to a fault stones as well. Where I try to they're both very explosive movements, right? And they require a lot of both sandbag, so both like sandbag stones and Olympic weightlifting require a lot of precision, as you guys know, right? But the snatch and the snatch especially is like over in a hair, right? Like you close your eyes, you miss the lift. With the clean and jerk, I think that's probably more like where you kind of see that control, where you kind of stand up with the weight and you kind of have to compose yourself under that weight and make sure you're set and kind of catch your breath and kind of be able to brace. But I would say it's like with Olympic, it's like a very explosive precision. I think with stone lifting and sandbags, it's like more methodical precision, if that kind of makes
Yeah,
sense.
makes a lot of sense.
But I do lean on like I guess if there's like the Olympic way to like, hey, I'm gonna get this into my lap and I'm just gonna go aggressively up with it, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. Like if it's horizontal, that's how I'm gonna try to go, right? I'm gonna try to get that to my lap, and then I'm just gonna drive as aggressively as I can to get that up to my chest or to my shoulder. And sometimes I get a lot of like with stones, they don't roll as nicely as sandbags, so I get myself in a lot of trouble with that, and I try to like throw the stone up and it's like, oh shit, there's 300 pounds on my chest. It doesn't, it doesn't want to move. It doesn't want to roll. So I'm like, then it kind of comes back at you versus like, I think they would, if it's more of a vertical or a clasp, that's have to be a little bit more methodical. And I think that's paying, hopefully, myself dividends and gaining some of that strength, which I don't think I'm strong in. I'm not very strong. I think I get away with it. I think I mask a lot of it because of potentially the way I approach the lifts.
You're definitely strong.
Yeah, but it's like I've talked about this in detail with some friends about it. Like stone lifting almost breaks down for me into three categories. You have your strength, your technique, and your grit. And so I think if somebody has strength, if somebody has technique and grit, you are able to push strength quite a bit to the side. Obviously, you have to be strong enough to lift the thing.
For sure.
Of course, it should go without saying, but if you have a guy who's maxed out on strength and a guy who's maxed out on technique and grit and just strong enough, the guy with technique and grit is probably going to do it better and more efficiently. It's why some smaller guys can outlift guys like Hafthor, right? Like when you see guys like, there's video of Eddie Hall lifting Strathmore of Durness. There's videos of Hafthor Bjornsson lifting Dritvik Fulsterker. And so you have two of these guys that were both world's strongest men, and they have the strength. If you want to compare it to a video game sliders, when you're designing a character, a lot of people like playing games that they have the strength slider cranked to the max, but and obviously going to have some grit because they're strongmen. They're incredibly gritty, but without that technique bit, it kind of all falls apart almost. And so I think that people there's a point where you need to get much stronger to get to that next level, but you can get really, really far by being just strong enough and focusing on those other two elements. At least that's my insight personally.
For sure. And I think that's also the big variance between Olympic weightlifting and stones and sandbags is there's pretty much like a one way to lift a snatch and the clean jerk. Obviously your body kind of will dictate how you move with the bar, right? And how you position yourself during the lift. But with stones and sandbags, there are multiple ways to skin the cat, right? Again, like you guys mentioned earlier, the stone kind of dictates what it gives you and how you lift it, right? So you have to be able to, again, to adjust to that. And then the same with sandbags, there's Cocan, horizontal, vertical, clasp, right? I think, what's benefited me personally, I think is having guys like yourselves and the New England guys and just the community actually showing us and myself the different ways to do that, right? Because when I first started kind of stone lifting and sandbags, it was all horizontal all the time. And I was like, I lifted it vertically one time. I was like, oh my God, my mind is fucking blown, right? And then the clasp came along. And then the Cocan. So just like having all these kind of different kind of things in your repertoire, that is a sign of progress in itself. Just your ability to kind of mold yourself into these different kind of techniques.
And that to that point, that technique as well doesn't just stop off the floor. Once you get into your lap, especially for someone like yourself who likes to shoulder, I love shouldering, but there are multiple ways to take it from that position too, right? Or you also have to work from your shoulder back down. Pardon me, as to how you want to even attack that stone, right? You may have to pick it off the ground in a way that you don't like as much, but that's what makes the most sense in order to get it up to your shoulder. Or do you flip it in your lap? Do you have to pivot it on your chest? Like, and that's what's just so fun is there's so many ways to come at every single lift, and every person can do it different based on their strengths. So there is no right way, there is no wrong way for anyone to do anything in this realm, and it's pretty sweet that way.
Yeah, Dave, you kind of, it was like one of the older podcasts that you guys had, Forget the Guest. What thing was really stuck with me was like approaching the lift with the end in mind, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you have to sometimes, or you should. Sometimes it makes it a little bit easier from the
yeah,
get. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And it might be more challenging you might have to adjust the stone to a certain way that might not be as easy if you're trying to accomplish just a different goal, right? If you're just trying to get it to the lap, to the chest, you might position it differently. But if the goal is to shoulder, you're going to position it the initial, like how it's laying on the ground. It might be a little more comfortable, a little bit more challenging, but it's going to get to where you wanted to go because the way you're positioning it in the first place.
yeah, and that's how I tackled Ulsterker at Latra, is because like I watched every video I could find of anybody who had done Ulsterker there, and I picked it a different way solely for the reason that I knew it would come off my lap more efficiently in a safer way to set it down on the stone. So you almost like reverse engineer the lift.
Exactly.
And actually, Brian Clifford, Big Red Doc, did it. He went, what was it, about 2 weeks later after we went, and he tried it that way, and he's like, yeah, that was, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe he told me some of the effectives, like, yeah, that was clearly the best way from his point of view as well to get it up there, right? And it's just, but that comes with experience too. It comes again with that element of playing around and not being rigid. And this is the way that I do this thing, right? You can figure it out sometimes.
Yeah, just have that 5-year-old playful approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd asked you about if you thought that there was strength that carried over from Olympic weightlifting to help you when you entered stone lifting. But I want to flip that question on its head, because you kind of came from a world where you were training exclusively with barbells and to a very high level to now training exclusively with sandbags and stones. Was there a particular weakness when you started lifting stones or sandbags that surprised you, understanding you had this Olympic weightlifting strength?
Everything. I mean, it's a humbling experience. I mean, a lot of strength pursuits are, right? But again, from my experience, obviously the stones were like, grip continues to be a thing that I'm really kind of focusing on more recently, especially again, not to give you more shout outs, but like your forearms and this, obviously on your great videos, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, huge, right? No, but all kidding aside, like, and a lot of other guys kind of obviously espousing the benefits of grip strength, but also just like forearm strength, finger strength. So that continues. That's like I don't want to say it's the main limiter, but like, it's definitely one that if I can continue to kind of improve upon, it puts me in a better position to innervate the body. Hey, like wake it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, through my hands to like, hey, you can actually, if you can get a good grasp on it, you can hold it. You can, the body will wake up and you can be confident you can get it to the lap. But yeah, right now getting ready so just like thinking of now, if you don't mind, it's like with Ireland in mind, it's like with the certain stones that I do want to lift, it's like, hey, just like off the ground, right? Because I'm not worried about shouldering it. I just want to be able to kind of pick them and get them to the lap. So just like strength off the floor, just like grip strength, fingers, like grip strength, and then just the strength off the floor. And I think those are the main ones right now. But before it was pretty much everything, right? But over time, you kind of, and it also depends on like the positions too, like depending on the type of like, if you're lifting it like for a sandbag, if it's horizontal versus vertical, like, since I was lifting horizontally for so long, though, that became a strength when vertical it was kind of, I don't want to say untapped in a way, because I wasn't training that. So now it's kind of just like rotating it to make sure that it doesn't kind of fall to the wayside too much. And like trusting yourself that it's okay that if you even though this might be the main kind of point of the programming or the training focus, to not lose those things that you've worked so hard to gain as well, right? So that's but yeah, like right now it's definitely the kind of grip and the pick off the ground to the lap.
which makes total sense. To your point about, technique, grit, strength, think of how many people in the world can deadlift or squat 400 pounds, and then think how many people in the world can chest, or at the extreme end of the spectrum, shoulder a 400 plus pound stone. And what is that differential? Why is it that there is such a huge discrepancy between the two camps that can do those lifts? And I know from my training for Iceland, the thing that leveled me up more than any of the other training I'd done to date was that grip, that hand, that forearm, that cupping strength. Like, that's your connection point to the stone.
Yeah.
If that part of the chain breaks down, I don't care how much weight you can deadlift. You got to be able to hold it in your hand.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I'm too stupid. You called it methodical or comfortable. Like, if I get it in my lap, I'm stupid enough to kind of stand with it.
Yeah. Do all the effort to get into the lap. It's definitely,
if it's like in the lap, I'm pretty, I don't think I've again, don't quote me on this. I've rarely missed like a lift.
Right.
Once I get it to the lap, right? I'm big on, like, I'm a huge fan of Turkish get-ups. Like, if I can get on my elbow and extend that arm, that support arm, I know it's going up, type of thing. So it's just having that confidence that once that weight is in a certain position, that you can get it where it wants to go.
One thing that you have done incredibly well, when I think of the people who are out, setting up modern stones of strength. Again, we've already mentioned the podcast that, when you're going on a stone tour, the stone creates the destination. And quite often when we think about trying to find these beautiful, meaningful destinations to go and lift at, we're thinking overseas. We're thinking of the Icelands and the Irelands, the Scotlands, Japans, that kind of stuff. But you have done a phenomenal job of establishing modern stones of strength in unbelievably picturesque places here in North America. And I wanted to ask you what the process is for being able to do that. Are you out on hikes and then happen to find a stone? Do you have areas in mind that you've heard of, and maybe you're placing stones there? Like, how has this sort of, you've essentially created beautiful areas to go on stone tours here in North America, and you can take photos and have experiences that are as glorious as you could anywhere overseas. So
it's very kind of you. Thank you very much. But I don't do much. Like, nature does the work for me, right? In a way, so to speak. But very rarely do we go out hiking without the scale and ratchets,
nice.
Right? It's like that, water and some snacks, right? But if it's a place that we've been to before, like Kentucky, right, and we know the area and we're gonna go back and visit, I think recently was the Copper's Fall Stone. It's just like it's a gem. It's like absolutely. It's not even an actual official trail, but you get there just like pristine. Like, it's like a paradise, right? And very unexpected in Kentucky, of all places, right? Not like most people don't associate Kentucky with like lush rainforests of rhododendrons and waterfalls, right? So we've been there. I was like, hey, when we go back, if we get the opportunity to go back, I would like to place a stone there. And just we went back, and there happened to be just these two stones. I brought one down gently and obviously taking care. But there was this much larger stone right underneath the waterfall. I was like, hey, this just kind of lends itself to, hey, I think stone lifters could hike a little bit more,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, maybe improve their cardio a bit. But it's typically, it's not necessarily the main intention. The main intention is just to be outside, spend time outdoors, and get the family outside, get the little guy outside, have a good time with it. But then if there happen to be stones, then it's an icing on the cake, right? That happened kind of quite frequently when we were in New England, when they're just even like Mikey is just like he's spoiled, just like river stones, and just like anywhere you look there's just stones. I'm like, dude, like, just bring this, like, what are you, they take these home, send them to me, right? Like, in Cleveland, Ohio, it's like dirt, like it's like, you scraping the bottom of the barrel type of thing. But it just like, it's essentially, hey, if there's an opportunity to place a stone there because we're out, obviously be mindful of the environment, leave no trace type of situation, or as little as possible, and make it a destination that somebody might not have considered before, right? So if you do have an opportunity, if you're kind enough to watch one of my videos, or anybody else for that matter that's placing these stones, and you're looking for a holiday trip or a holiday vacation, then hey, why not Kentucky, New Hampshire? There's obviously Cleveland might not be, on your travel destination, but maybe now it is because you are a
Yeah,
stone.
maybe it should be, right? That's the
Yeah.
whole point. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
associated with it, and if my door is always open, so to speak. We have a nice little property. We have a nice little stone garden set up. That's one of the main priorities,
Yeah,
obviously.
that's so awesome. Congratulations. The place looks so cool. Yeah.
So if we're having a little get together, I think I extended the invitation to you, Dale, obviously to you both. And I appreciate that you guys can't make it, but never in the future, you never know.
Yeah.
That hey, maybe this becomes a thing. That maybe just like a little gathering in the backyard, it might grow into something else, and people start recognizing it. Neighbors see us, doing crazy stuff with the stones. But yeah, long-winded answer to your pretty straightforward question. But yeah, ratchet scale, little obviously hole or pipe to be able to put it on to be able to lift it out. Then I have obviously Alina and the little guy to tell me what the weight is. And if stone is there, great. If not, we still had a great kind of adventure type of thing.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
We're slowly trying to work on Alberta Stones of Strength here. I need to get another trip out, but just trying to do that, putting stones in beautiful spots, and just it's an excuse to get out to explore, to go there together with people, and I think it's awesome. It's what it's all about.
It's nice to be able to like those picturesque places. Then it's not just rewarding for you to go to if you're going with a spouse or a friend who doesn't lift or whatever. They get to go take a beautiful view while you get to go lift a stone. There's something in it for everybody, and just encouraging people to get out more and explore.
To wrap it up, so we don't bore people too long. But yeah, that's the other thing is like I've kind of trained my family to expect them, right? To hey, you might be we might be looking for stones. But the other thing is we I think we kind of it's been talked about in the community too is we do want to give the historic stones a break a little bit, right? And potentially just the travel cost, right? Obviously not everybody can afford or has the privilege or opportunity to travel to Scotland, Iceland, or otherwise, right? So if there's some stones that are much near, like closer to you, then let's say New England or Edmonton or Alberta, right? If you're in North America, it might be a great trip. Still, you never know.
Well, and you're no less of a stone lifter if you never put your hands on a historical stone, right? It's not about accumulating experience or points for some kind of like lifter hierarchy. We train with guys who may never lift a historical stone, and they are absolutely world class.
Unbelievably strong.
It's just it's about what you as an individual and in many ways, as a member of the community are looking to get out of this practice. And no one person's involvement is of any more value than anyone else, as long as you're being respectful of the stones and the environment and each other. So,
yeah, sure. Yeah, like there's a lot of good work being done in like Polynesia, right? That's another kind of on tap. Obviously, cool. very far to get to, but like Polynesia and like Australia and New Zealand, obviously there's a lot of guys down there that kind of creating their own kind of communities as well. So.
Well, yeah, and I'm remiss. I should have given this gentleman a shout out before, but I was in Kona, Hawaii in February, and I met up with a gentleman named Michael, who's Michael in Hawaii on Instagram, and messaging back and forth. And he took time out of his day to show me a couple of his cool stone lifting honey holes on the coast of Kona, Hawaii. And it was just another cool example where through this community of stone lifting, you can go and essentially find friends almost anywhere in the world that are united by this common interest in stone lifting. It is such a global thing that it's a beautiful thing to tie people together. And it's such a simple thing, but it's just so deep and meaningful. So.
Sure.
And no one has done, or very few people have done more for tying the global stone lifting community together than you through your Strength Stones Collective page and the awesome modern stones of strength that you're putting out. It's efforts through people like you that make this community so much deeper and more meaningful for the rest of us. So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Again, way too kind. I think the credit goes to the community, right? I think again,
a great community.
Yeah,
great community. Yeah, it's and I think that there's people that are recognizing the intent also of the Strength Zone Collective and what we're doing again collectively as a community.
Yeah,
that it's making it easier. Obviously, paying attention. Obviously, we talked about to highlight those that are doing it well and doing it more often. I think, and if we continue on this trajectory, I think we're going to be we're going to grow in a very positive kind of direction.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, Pawel, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please be so kind as to leave the show a review, and then follow us over on Instagram at stonesofstrength_podcast.